Lots of interesting rumors going around for Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. We'll also take a look at what the future could look like for Sasha Banks and Naomi. Let's start things off with a newly formed tag team and most likely the next set of women's tag team champions, Sasha Banks and Naomi. Now, like we first talked about, there was some controversy surrounding the formation of this team of Sasha and Naomi a few weeks ago. There was controversy simply because everyone sort of expected for their WrestleMania plans to look a bit different. Naomi was involved in a 7-month-long story with Sonya Deville that accomplished nothing and had zero payoff. So not seeing that storyline have a proper end was extremely frustrating. Sasha Banks, on the other hand, is coming off last year's WrestleMania main event, so everyone just assumed she'll have some sort of big non-title singles match. But that didn't happen either. The good thing about this formation of this tag team is that there is some history there dating back to their days together in Team Bad in 2015. Not only that, but the way it's looking right now, Sasha and Naomi will most definitely be successful at WrestleMania for a handful of reasons. Number one reason being the state of the women's tag team titles. Those titles have been irrelevant ever since Sasha and Bayley held them during the Performance Center and Thunderdome era. When Sasha and Bayley were tag team champions, the titles felt important. Everyone wanted to knock off the cocky heel duo of Sasha and Bayley. It made the titles feel special, but ever since Sasha and Bayley, there really hasn't been any memorable women's tag team champions. And that's not the tag team champions' fault. It basically comes down to WWE creative and the lack of care and treatment for the division. That's what it really comes down to. So same thing, it's not like Carmella and Zelina are horrible champions. That's not the case at all. They've just received horrible usage during their title reign. So now, passing those titles over to Sasha Banks and Naomi will most definitely bring some new life to the titles and to the women's tag team division, with Sasha Banks and Naomi both being massive stars and having massive fan bases. The women's tag team division will finally have people's attention. Now it'll just be up to WWE to do their part and not forget about the women's tag titles again. If successful at WrestleMania, not only will this be Sasha's first title win at WrestleMania, it'll be her first overall WrestleMania win of her entire career. Sasha currently sits at 0 wins and 6 losses at WrestleMania. She lost all of her WrestleMania matches dating from WrestleMania 32 to 37. She's been a part of WrestleMania every year since she debuted. Only problem is that it's all been losses. So a win here will break that dreaded losing streak and prevent her from having 0 wins and 7 losses on her WrestleMania stat sheet. So that's why it makes more logical sense for Sasha Banks and Naomi to win the titles at WrestleMania. You would be ending Sasha's WrestleMania losing streak and bringing much-needed new life to the women's tag team division. If Carmella and Zelina retain, then nothing would really change. So it just seems like a definite win for Sasha and Naomi. Sasha and Naomi would definitely go on to have a great reign with each other, but the most exciting thing to look forward to will be their split from each other down the line. Think of how great a personal feud would be between Sasha Banks and Naomi. Who's going to turn first? What's going to be their story there with that? With Rhea Ripley and Nikki, everyone expected Rhea to turn heel first, but WWE threw a curveball and had Nikki turn heel on Rhea. The expected route here would be for Sasha to turn heel, but if WWE wants to take the curveball route here, they would have Naomi turn on Sasha first. So that's the best part about Sasha Banks and Naomi linking up. There's going to be a lot of story to tell here. Could Sasha and Naomi's story together rival Sasha and Bayley's storyline from 2020? It's still too early to tell, but it definitely has the potential to be just as great as the Sasha Banks versus Bayley storyline was. Now let's head over to WWE's recent MSG show. There was a lot of hype surrounding this show because WWE spent a few weeks promoting the main event on WWE television. They promoted that Brock Lesnar would defend the title against a mystery opponent in MSG. So naturally, the interest started to grow. You wanted to build hype. Just announce a mystery opponent and the fans will run wild with it. And that's exactly what happened. Everyone was checking in to see who this big mystery opponent was that Paul Heyman promised would take the WWE title away from Brock Lesnar. Well, the opponent ended up being Austin Theory, who lost the match, and the fans were disappointed. But again, just think logically. They're not going to have a big debut or return during a live event show that's not being televised or aired in any way. If this event was the one being aired on television, then of course, that changes everything. But it wasn't aired, so of course, there wasn't going to be any big appearances. But what was interesting was the end to the live event. Roman Reigns comes out to take Brock Lesnar out, hits him with the steel steps, takes both titles and stands over him with them. The fans were talking about how this must mean that Brock is winning at WrestleMania. That's a fan theory that's been around for a while, that whoever looks strong heading into the pay-per-view event is likely the one losing. But there's still a few weeks left and Brock Lesnar could have his big moment of looking strong and holding both titles. So don't put your predictions in quite yet. Another interesting thing that's catching fans' interest is an advertisement for a live event show after WrestleMania. This advertisement for the post-WrestleMania live event is still advertising a WWE Championship between Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, and Seth Rollins. Now, of course, these cards are all subject to change at any time, but the fact that they're advertising a championship match for shortly after WrestleMania has fans wondering and speculating if another big twist could be coming for Brock Lesnar and the WWE title. Does Brock Lesnar lose the title before WrestleMania, or will there be some sort of weird finish at WrestleMania that keeps the title separated? It's all hard to say right now, but the fact that WWE Championship matches are being advertised for this big unification match is a bit weird. But again, maybe it means nothing. Maybe WWE is just advertising those matches right now to sell tickets, and the card will most definitely change after we see the results of the WrestleMania main event. A lot of fans are bringing up the point that Roman Reigns has to win at WrestleMania because holding both titles and being the overall unified champion will legitimize everything he's been saying about himself for 2 years now. And we first talked about this idea 2 years ago when the tribal chief version of Roman Reigns was just coming up. We talked about how if he believes he's above everyone and the one true champion in WWE, why doesn't he go after the WWE title as well to prove that he really is the one true champion on WWE? Well, now, 2 years later, Roman Reigns has the opportunity to do exactly that at WrestleMania. So logically speaking, Roman Reigns should win this match. He's spent the last few years talking about being the draw, being the needle mover. So what better way to pull that off than by having him hold on and unify both WWE world titles? So we'll see if that's exactly what they decide to do. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.